Today we're going to talk about annotating the text. Now, I've used that term before, and you guys have kind of different ideas of what that means. So today I'm going to model for you how to annotate the text. And the text that I'm going to use today is the poem called The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Before we get to the text, I want to talk to you a little bit about the brain and how it works. The brain is one of the largest and most complex organs in the human body. It is made of more than 100 billion nerves that communicate in trillions of connections called synapses. Now, there are different parts of the brain. Certain parts of the brain control things like breathing and your heart beating, and other parts of your brain control activities like thinking and analyzing. I really want to talk mostly about the synapses, how the electrons go from place to place within the brain, and also the area where you think and analyze. The brain is at the center of learning. When you are in class listening to the teacher talk, you use your sensory abilities of hearing, seeing, and sometimes touching to trigger your brain into learning. The information comes into the brain and creates an electrical impulse inside your brain. This impulse crosses the neurons at what are called synapses. When you are thinking, your brain is like a lightning storm as the electrical impulses cross over several neurons. Sometimes it takes several attempts at processing before the brain learns or remembers a certain concept. So now you might be saying to yourself, what does this have to do with annotating the text? I'm so glad you asked. When you annotate the text, you will be applying several concepts we have talked about in class. Your brain will be in an electrical storm like no other. I hope. Okay, so let's get started. Every time we apply a concept to annotating, you will hear a zapping sound like this. Those are the neurons firing in your brain. Okay, the very first thing I do on annotating the text is I make sure I have all my materials together. So I have my poem, The Village Blacksmith. It's a 2-page poem. It is taken from the anthology book. And I'm showing you this picture because the picture shows up a little bit better on this than it does on my copy. I also have my highlighter and my pen. So now I am ready to go. Okay, so I've been asked to annotate this text. The very first thing I need to do, the first skill I need to do is define annotate. So I know from listening to my teacher that annotate is just a big academic word for taking notes directly on the page. So the first thing I do is take a look at what's going to help me understand what this poem is generally about. I take a look at the title, The Village Blacksmith. I take a look at the picture, which I showed you in the anthology book is a little bit better. And I take a look and I notice that it's a poem because it is set up in stanzas as opposed to paragraphs. I know that because there are numbers here, and that's just different than regular text that I've been looking at. I also have some vocabulary words out to the side, and it looks like I have some footnotes on the back. Again, I've got some hints as to what the poem is going to be talking about. So these are using text features, and you guys do this automatically all the time. But it is a skill that I learned in class. Okay, so now I'm going to read the first stanza, and only the first stanza. I'm going to read it all the way through before I make any kind of notes on my paper. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands. And the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. My second read, I'm going to make some notes on my paper. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. Well, I think to myself, what is a smithy exactly? That's just good practice as a reader, as you're reading, to ask questions. Now I see that there's a number 1, and so that means that there must be a footnote. Let's go to the bottom. Smithy is a workshop of a blacksmith. Okay, so now I've used text features. Going back up. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands. Oh my, there's another word that I'm not that familiar with, sinewy. But I do see that sinewy is defined for me over here as tough and strong. And the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. The next thing I did on my annotation is that as I was reading the first stanza, I noticed that the poet, Longfellow, is giving me some real distinct characteristics about the main character of this poem. So I went ahead and set up a place to put down some direct characterizations, what is explicitly stated in the poem, and some indirect characterizations. This may really help me later on when I am asked to develop a theme about what's going on in this poem. It may not help me, but since I'm annotating, I just put everything down, all of the skills that I've learned. So under direct characterization, I have put this character is a mighty man, he's large, and he's tough. Direct characterization. The next thing I did was I picked out some figurative language. Anytime you're working with poetry, well, really any type of literature, figurative language is a really good concept to identify and go ahead and make note of, because you never know when you're going to be asked that. Teachers really like to ask you about figurative language. So in this first stanza, the muscles, his muscles are compared to iron bands, and the poet says his muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. Since the word as is used right there, I recognize that as a simile, so I went ahead and wrote that down just in case I need that in my answer. I just don't know. I just feel like it's important. To go on to stanza 2, I like to go ahead and read it and then go back and reread it and take notes on my second read. His hair is crisp and black and long. His face is like the tan. His brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whatever he can and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Again, his hair is crisp. What does that mean exactly? So I'm asking a question. Good readers do that. And since it has a footnote, number 2, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look down there. It means closely curled and wiry. Okay, so this is further describing the blacksmith. Okay, his hair is crisp and black and long. His face is like the tan. He's maybe been out in the sun. He's tanned color. His brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whatever he can. More to my characterization. Let's see. His hair is crisp and black and long. So down here, his hair is black, curly, and long. And then his face is like the tan. So I put indirect characterization because the author doesn't really say that he's been out in the sun, but I'm making an inference that because the author made mention that his face was tan, that he works in the sun. And because of that, I know that that takes a lot of work to work out in the sun, so I think he's a very hard worker. Again, another inference. He earns whatever he can and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. He is also not in debt. Now, I'm just taking the liberty as a reader to make that inference. It could be a different meaning of owes like he doesn't owe anybody any favors, but because he was talking about his hard-working nature, I'm going to go ahead and put down, I'm going to make a leap of faith and make an inference that he's not in debt. So I went back through, and now I found my figurative language. His face is like the tan. The poet is comparing his face to the color of tan and uses like. So that is a simile. And honest sweat. Sweat cannot be honest. It cannot lie. It cannot tell the truth. So because the poet used the word honest there, he's putting human characteristics upon something that is not human. So that is what we call personification. Figurative language. Okay, now, since I've read 2 stanzas and I've picked it apart pretty well, I think I'm ready to formulate a main idea. So I just wrote up there, main idea. I think the main idea of this poem is about a blacksmith who works hard. Again, it's important to know the main idea so that you can further analyze the theme and any symbolism that's going on in the poem. So main idea, something we know about from being in class and paying attention. Back to my routine, I will read stanza 3. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. Now, I went ahead and marked up stanza 3 all at the same time. So the first thing is I have questions about what bellows, sledge, and sexton, what they mean. First of all, my questioning makes my synapses go. And I use my text features to figure out those answers. Bellows is a device for quickening the fire by blowing air into it. Did not know that. A sledge is a type of tool that most of you guys have seen that before. And a sexton is a person who cares for the church bell. Okay, so now I go back and I figure out my figurative language. Week in, week out. That's a type of repetition. You can hear his bellows blow. Since that taps into my sensories, that is a form of imagery. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge. Again, another another form of imagery. Sorry. And then, like a sexton ringing the village bell, this one takes a little bit of work on my figurative language. They are comparing the rhythm of him slinging his sledge to the sexton ringing the village bell. So the rhythm is being compared between the blacksmith and the sexton and the sledgehammer and the village bell. Okay, so simile. Okay, now I have added more to my indirect characterization. After reading this, where am I? After reading this, I have made a inference that this man is consistent and persistent, because you can really hear the rhythm. You can count on it, just like you can count on hearing the church bells. So I've made another addition to my indirect characterization. Now, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I went ahead and drew a picture of what this man might look like based on the direct characterization. And here is another text feature asking me, what do you think it would feel like to work in a place like this? So I went ahead, it didn't take me long, I went ahead and answered that question in just some jots. I think it would be hot, dirty, and tiresome. And I know that by looking at my text features. There's a flame back there where he's working over the fire. I'm also tapping into my background knowledge because I've studied a little bit about blacksmithing. I know that it was